All right, so you should have gotten a notification for that, everyone. Okay, so welcome everyone to our state initiatives that validate the linguistic strengths of our ML students. We're so happy to be doing this collaboration with the State Department, and they're just two incredible individuals doing incredible things, and we're so happy to have them here with us today to talk about some initiatives and hopefully bring more awareness to it, which allows the people here to advocate more for our ML students and the opportunities that we can provide for them. Dr. Rocio Zalba is here, and she's going to talk about the South Carolina Seal of Biliteracy. And then we have Dr. Lindsay Yearta, who's going to be talking about the Proficiency-Based Systems Plan. And we'll let them introduce themselves in a minute. Just a few housekeeping things before we get started. So who is the South Carolina Multilingual Learner Educator Network? This is kind of what's on our website. We're basically just a group of educators here to support other educators working with MLs and supporting them, providing networking opportunities, professional development, kind of like this, advocacy opportunities. And we are just here to really form an assets-based mindset about our MLs in the state of South Carolina, as well as provide classroom teachers, ML teachers, and administrators with the tools they need to work with ML students. So we're so happy to be doing this collaboration today. We do have Katie Cook here. She's our director and founder. And then my name is Laura McCauley, and I'm the assistant director of programming. And I don't know if Kristen's here, but we also have Kristen Kraft, who's our director of our admin team, and she kind of does our mailing and reaching out and things like that. So getting connected with us, if you've never been to anything with us before, I always like to go over this so that you can join us later. I updated, we have a new website. It's www.scmle.org. Now that we are a nonprofit and we got authorized by Google, and it's just an authenticated, I think is a word, and it's just a really exciting time for us as a nonprofit. We also have social media. There is a private Facebook as well as a public one. The private one is for South Carolina educators, but we generally share the same information on both. But we would love for you to join us on any one of those platforms, and also join our mailing list. We really only send mail out once a month or so, or whenever an event's coming up. So we're not really spamming you, but it's a great way to stay connected, great way to get information, and also share it with others easily. So we're so happy to have you. We'd love to have as many people on our mailing list as we can. We have two upcoming events. The first one is starting on Monday. We are starting our book club, and we are reading Malala's book, We Are Displaced, My Journey and Stories from Refugee Girls from Around the World. It is an easy read, but super impactful. It's just an incredible story of such powerful women from all around the world, just from all walks of life, that are now settled in all different kinds of places. It's such a moving book, and especially, with as many refugees that are continuing to move into South Carolina, as well as just the way things are going around the world. It's so important to learn how we can support others around us, and no matter what they're in. If you want to join, the registration bit.ly is down there. Our Facebook group for it is down there, SCMLE We Are Displaced Book Club, and you can join there as well. And then Katie's going to talk briefly about the info session on the right.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. We do have a couple of really incredible scholars here in South Carolina from Clemson and from College of Charleston who have been leading groups to go to the McAllen border and Reynosa border down in Texas, the U.S.-Mexico border. And the purpose of these trips is just to kind of see for ourselves what's happening at the border. There's a lot of information and misinformation out there about what's going on there and what families are facing. And so these are very experienced folks who lead trips down there to work with people in and around the border. We have the opportunity to join them on a trip to that border on Memorial Day weekend. And so if you're interested in being a part of this trip, there's an information session on Zoom on March 12th, just to find out more about it. Even if you're not available on Memorial Day, they are planning other trips for this year and next. So if you just want to find out more about what's going on with South Carolina educators and what they're learning on their trips, this is a great opportunity. So you can register by going to our website. And there was also an email that went out today with those links. So if you sign up for the mailing list, you should be able to grab that link for yourself. Thanks again for being here.
Awesome. I know that's super exciting to do so many collaboration events. Last thing, a couple housekeeping things before we get started. We asked that everyone keep their microphones off just so there's no feedback. No, everyone can hear everything clearly. If you have any, but I think there will be a time for a Q&A after each presentation. So just be aware of that. Any questions in the meantime, feel free to put them in the that I'm sure that would be a really easy way to keep up with them. For attendees that are attending live, such as you, we will be emailing a professional development certificate and the agenda to you on or before Wednesday, March 6th, so that pending your district's approval, you can receive credit for your time. We love doing that here. We are also sending a feedback survey with you. I'm going to put it in the chat at the end of the event, as well as emailing you all with it after the event. Please respond. It's so valuable to us to hear what you think, but also to hear of any ideas or things that you would like for us to do next. We really, as a nonprofit, we really try to go off of you guys and what you all want to see. So please respond. We would love it. Awesome. So now we are going to, I'm going to hand it over to Lindsay. She is going to do her presentation first.
Thank you. I'm actually going to drop the link to my slides in case anyone wants to open those up and follow along. All the things. Let me move all the things around. Okay. So I have dropped the link in the chat for the slides so that you can click. There's some things that you might want to click in around the application and district strategic plan. So feel free to click on any of those as you like. I also want to mention just really quickly that I am a classroom teacher, right? In my soul, I've had 2 decades of experience in elementary, middle, undergraduate, and graduate courses. So if you have a question, like Laura just mentioned, please drop it in the chat or, take yourself off mute and just ask. You won't bother me. We can answer questions in real time for sure. I might not see the questions put in the chat, Laura. So if something pops up, if that person doesn't take themselves off mute, if you'll just let me know.
Absolutely, no problem.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I am going to be talking to you today about proficiency-based systems in South Carolina. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the process and the application, and then we'll kind of focus in on the credit through prior knowledge piece, as I think that's what's going to be most relevant to you all in the multilingual learner sphere. This is our team. I am a part of the personalized learning team. We are housed in the Office of Assessment and Standards at the South Carolina Department of Education. We follow, our personalized learning team follows a regional coaching model. So know that you have access to any of these phenomenal ladies as you and your district either begin or continue to shift to more student-centered practices. And as you can see, I'm the research and impact gal for this team, and I also work with folks across the agency on proficiency-based systems, which is what I'm going to be talking to you about today. So the South Carolina State Board of Education has a regulation around proficiency-based systems. I've linked this here for you so that you can read the language as it's written in the regulation. Proficiency-based systems focus on providing educational experiences that occur either within a school or within the broader community, and they're not bound by existing instructional hour requirements. We also call that seat time. It's based on mastery of content. So essentially, this flexibility applies to high school credit-bearing courses, and it allows districts to award credit for courses that have been approved by the SCDE in a proficiency-based system. So you'll read, if you click into that regulation, you'll read that each school district that wants to implement a proficiency-based system has to submit a plan to the agency, and that's what we'll talk about today. The SCDE provides procedures for establishing and developing a proficiency-based system, and this includes the method for determining proficiency. Like, how do you know if the student has mastered the content of the course? So the SCDE has to approve that plan prior to you using the system that you've come up with. And districts are accountable for making sure that the academic standards and the individual learning needs of the students are addressed. So we like to say it's flexibility within fences. So there's all this flexibility that exists at the state level, but there's guidelines or guardrails in place to make sure that we don't have those unintended consequences. When you start looking at a PBS plan, you have to kind of think through as you're crafting your application, if you're asking to have this flexibility around new or existing courses. If it's an existing course, you go straight ahead with the PBS plan. If it is a new course, so in other words, it's a course that doesn't exist in your course catalog right now, then you first have to do the innovative course application. And once you do the innovative course application, then you can add that to your PBS plan. All right, you have three options of credit that you can put in your PBS plan. It's initial credit, credit through prior knowledge, and credit recovery. And as you speak with your district office personnel, you'll find that credit recovery is the most oft-used option. It's almost every district in the state has a credit recovery component to their PBS plan. So it wouldn't be too hard to add the credit through prior knowledge piece. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of each of the three types. With initial credit, you have students who are participating in an educational experience where they're trying to earn credit for the first time, hence the classification of initial credit. Often districts that have this option require students to create a portfolio of their learning and or take an assessment to prove that they've mastered that content. If the course has an accompanying EOC and a student is doing initial credit through a PBS system, they also have to take the EOC that's required by the state. Credit through prior knowledge is the one that we're really excited about in your context. This is when students don't enroll in a class, so this is not tied to a class at all, but instead they're able to bring in their knowledge, show you what they know, and they have that chance to earn credit for courses they haven't taken. I'll give you a hypothetical example here. Let's say we have a student move to South Carolina from Honduras. We've got this 10th grader, right? Speaks, reads, can listen to, writes Spanish proficiently. So instead of that student coming in and enrolling in Spanish 1, we can test her perhaps using the STAMP language proficiency test. And then using a modern language score conversion chart, we can determine this student has all of the knowledge, the competencies that are needed to be successful in Spanish 4. That means she gets credit on her transcript for Spanish 1, Spanish 2, and Spanish 3. And that frees up space in her schedule to take something else that she might need, or just something else that she's interested in. So really, really great option, especially for our students that have language proficiency. And credit recovery is the one I told you most districts have on file with the State Department. This is where a student has taken a course, but not successfully. They have not successfully earned credit. So to qualify for this option, students have to earn between a 50 and 59 in the course. And then typically what happens is after consultation with their administrative team, they can sign up for a credit recovery course. And then when they complete this successfully, they get credit for the course they failed, but their grade doesn't change on their transcript. So they still have an F on their transcript. Their GPA does not change, but they've got the credit for the course. So you'll see this most often used for seniors that we're trying to graduate. Let's look at a few components of the PBS application. Several of the districts that I've worked with over the last year have taken these application questions, dumped them into a Google Doc, and then really worked on it as a collaborative team, much more in a much more collaborative way than it has been in the past. And this is especially true for those districts that are adding the credit through prior knowledge option. So somebody else might already have the initial credit or the credit recovery kind of drafted, and then you can kind of go in and add or help add the credit through prior knowledge piece. So there are proficiency-based, I know this is a lot, so I'm going to try and get through it so that we can free up time for you guys to ask me some questions. But proficiency-based systems plans are approved for the duration of the district strategic plan or school renewal plan. We call it DSSR, if that sounds familiar, for each 5-year cycle. The first year of a new 5-year district strategic or school renewal plan is when you submit your proficiency-based systems plan. And that is due on April 30th. And there's a link on the next slide, so you'll have all of that. But you will actually submit your plan to a form stack link, and then you get a PDF copy of what you submit, and you upload that with your DSSR. You have a year to implement. It's good for 5 years, but after a year, you submit an evaluation of how things are going, what you are keeping, what you might shift, how many students took advantage of, these credit options. And the evaluation is posted on the SCDE flexibility page and the DSSR page. So all those links are embedded too. For new PBS plans, those ones that are submitted to the form stack, those go to a PBS review team, and they're either approved and sent to the district, or they're returned to the district with some feedback. If it comes back to you with feedback, it's just an iterative process. You kind of incorporate the feedback, you take it back to your team, you make those changes and you resubmit, and your plan eventually gets approved. Like, we will work with you. I will liaison back and forth with you to make sure that it gets to where we need it to be. And then you can start implementing your plan. Once a plan is approved by the SCDE, the district can use it to develop its proficiency-based system and the accompanying courses. If the district submitted one or more innovative course applications for one of those courses that wasn't currently approved, the district has to make sure that each new course application is approved prior to offering it for credit. If you want to develop courses outside the scope of your original proficiency-based system plan, like offering a new type of credit, you have to submit an updated plan that includes the process for developing the proposed courses. And all those questions are in the application, so you'll be able to attend to that. The final proficiency-based system, which is developed through your plan, should be included in your DSSR. It should be shared publicly, so it's accessible by students, parents, stakeholders, all that good stuff. Here is the slide with the links. The left-hand side will take you to the form stack application, and you can pull that up. You can work on it. It will save. But like I mentioned earlier, you may want to just copy and paste the questions into a Google Doc so that you can work on it collaboratively, and then just put everything in the application when you're ready to submit. Once you submit the plan, you'll be sent that PDF copy that I mentioned, and then that PDF copy is uploaded with your DSSR. So an often asked question is, so is what we put in our DSSR already approved? No, but you still have to include that copy with your DSSR. I do want to mention really quickly, and I've kind of alluded to this, your district may employ a variety of strategies to develop your proficiency plan. For example, you guys might want to work as a team, as one team, or maybe a set of teams with various stakeholders who are assigned different tasks, a variety of tasks. And again, make sure you upload that PBS, proficiency-based systems plan, with your district strategic plan, because they should be done together. I'm going to very, very quickly, keep up the pace, go through the next couple of slides just to show you some frequently asked questions, but then I want to just open up the floor so you guys can ask anything that's on your minds, especially related to that credit through prior knowledge option. All right, this slide just has a couple of links that you might find helpful. And I do want to call out that Lexington One's grading guide is linked down here. It is a super helpful document. And within that document, they've got their conversion chart that they use. Rock Hill, which is York 3, and York 2, which is Clover. They also use, it's either Lexington One's chart or something super similar. And those folks are all very willing to share what they've done if you have questions and you want to go straight to them. Reminders about the strategic plan. If you are submitting your PBS application, you have to upload it with your DSSR, so get it in so that you get that PDF copy. And your PBS plan should be informed by the needs assessment and reflected in the performance goals. There are questions in the PBS plan that touch on those things. So just by crafting your plan and paying attention to the questions that are asked, you should get all of that in there. And we do get lots of questions on how students can demonstrate proficiency. And the short answer is that it's contextual. It depends on the district. And it depends on the type of credit you want to offer. But we've got a couple of options here that you can kind of look through. The STAMP would be the nationally recognized assessment that has national norms, international norms. Locally designed performance assessments are often used, physical and digital portfolios, independent studies. Just as you consider how assessment methods and criteria are going to be used, also make sure you're clearly communicating that to your community. And when you're making changes like this, of course, things have to go, through your school board. So lots of moving pieces, but we're here to help answer questions as you have them. So speaking of questions, we'll go ahead and if you have questions for me that have kind of popped up over this very quick overview of the PBS process, go ahead and ask them now. And my email address is on the first slide. If something comes up between when I'm done and whenever, you can email me and ask that way as well. So I'm going to stop talking and I'll wait for some questions.
Yeah, so I have Paw Patrol in the background, excuse me, but I did want to just confirm because we have offered in the past and know about plans that allow schools and districts to offer like placement. And so this is not just about placement. This is about credit and placement. Is that right?
That's a great question, Katie. Yes, if you have this and it's been through your local school board and you've put it together with your team and you put it to us at the state and it's been approved, then you then have the onus to offer credit. So you're not just getting placed into Spanish 4, you're getting credit for Spanish 1, 2, 3, then you are in Spanish 4. Which is great because then when the student moves into the workforce or into college, it shows that they have proficiency in all of those courses.
Yeah, that's great. And it gets them closer to graduation, right?
Yes.
So that a lot of times when our MLs come into school and they want to enroll in these upper grades, schools are like, oh no, we don't know if we're going to be able to get you to graduation. This is a great option for that, right? Because it gives them what they deserve as far as credit and credit towards.
Right. They already have the knowledge. They can already demonstrate their proficiency. It would be silly to not give them credit for what they already can demonstrate. And then it also frees up space in their schedule to take courses that would be more beneficial. I mean, they might need a particular course or want to take a different language, and then they've got multiple language proficiencies when they graduate. So it just really opens up the possibilities. I think there's something in the question. In the chat. Oh, thank you, Laura, for dropping my email there.
No worries.
Any other questions?
So Lindsay, you gave the example of having a student come in, let's say a student that comes in from Mexico and they are in high school and they can take the proficiency-based assessment and get credit for Spanish 1, 2, 3, and then be placed in Spanish 4. But is this placement in Spanish 4 is a policy that is decided by the district, right? The district can actually say, we give you world language credit. You do not have to take any language classes. Is that correct?
I'm not as incredibly sure what you're asking, Rocio.
Okay.
Ask.
So let me give you another example. Let's say we have a student that comes in from Portugal. These obviously they've just arrived, they are in high school. And as you know, they need to have 1 to 2 credits of, well, really, they really just only need 1 world language credit in their high school transcripts or a CTE course. Can the district in this credit through prior knowledge say, give the student credit for world languages because they come in with Portuguese and then not have to take a world language class, a Spanish or French, which the high school would offer? Is that something that a district would decide and you guys would kind of look into and consider?
Before the district can do any of this, they've got to have their plan fully fleshed out and submit it. So they get to make all the decisions
Right.
As to what works for the district, as long as they're following state guidelines and regulations. And then we'll work through the process with them. And so if that student comes in and already tests into, Spanish 4, that would have to, and maybe then doesn't take any world languages, that would have to be in their plan. All of that would have to be thought through before they implement anything.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Lindsay, we did have a question on where can we see plans that have already been approved? It goes for our school district. Reem, do you mean that Reem, do you mind asking that question? Do you mean like just where you can find your school district, or do you mean just any school district that has one approved?
I'm specifically asking for Greenville County School District.
Are you a part of Greenville County, Reem?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. So whomever does it at your district level would have copies of prior plans. And I want to say, is Charlotte McDaniel, does that sound familiar?
Charlotte McDaniel?
Yes.
Okay, I'll look that one up. Thank you.
I believe, and keep in mind, there's over 70 South Carolina districts. I think that is who submitted your plan last year. If you can't, Charlotte McDavid, thank you, Brenda.
I was going to say McDavid, but I wasn't sure. Okay, yeah, I do know that. I do know her.
If you get in touch with her, she is the one that submits for your group, and Greenville's another one that already has credit through prior knowledge as part of their plan.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. If you're interested, because I think it also is a really great question to kind of think through. If you're a district who doesn't have credit through prior knowledge as an option yet, so like where do you get started? I can certainly act as sort of a liaison and hook you up with other districts who have gone through the process. Like I mentioned earlier, York 2 and 3 and Lexington 1 they've all gone through the process and are in varying stages. You also have Greenville, and everyone I've ever asked, would you be willing to work with such and such district around adding a credit through prior knowledge option, how you did that, what steps you took. They've all been very willing to share what they've learned along the way. All right, my friends, I think this is one of those things that as you start going through and answering questions and sort of thinking through the process, questions will pop up. Laura popped my email address in the chat, and I will drop the links to the slides again in case you joined after I did that the first time. I do want to take just 1 second, and then I will pass to one of my favorite people in the whole world, Dr. Rocio Zalba. I've got a slide here. It's the last slide on the deck. And again, I'm part of the personalized learning team, and There's a ton of resources and professional development that we offer around making a shift to student-centered learning. We've got design workshops where you can come and work on something in particular. Inquiry labs, we were at Batesburg-Leesville High School. I saw Paul Spence joined a minute ago. We were there yesterday. We were in Griggs Road and Clover today, and it's just, they're in varying spots, right, of implementation around PCBL. And it's just good to go and see and ask questions and see how everything's going. We have a podcast. And then if you want to just go to our website, it's up there at the top and you can kind of click around. Any questions you have about that, please feel free to contact me. Oh, Laura already dropped the slides in again. I'm telling you, you are on top of things, woman.
No, you're good. No worries.
Thank you very much for your help. Ryan, the PBS plans are not on the state website. So if you are interested in seeing one, I would want to contact the district first and make sure they were okay with me sharing that. Or I would maybe just even give you their contact information and you can ask around if they would be willing to share their former plan. But everyone so far, like I said, has been very willing to share what they've learned.
This is great, Lindsay. Thank you so much. Do I move forward?
Yes, go for
Yes,
it, Rocio.
okay,
Yeah.
good, okay, wonderful. Let me share my screen, just to make sure that we are okay. Okay. Let me do one thing here because you're seeing me. Just 1 second. Let me do that again. I wonder if I can do it. No. Okay. Can you see my screen in front of you? Can you see the presentation? Yeah?
Yes, we can. Mhm.
Wonderful. So what I'm gonna do now is just I have this, I need to get to, you know how sometimes it hides the presentation.
Yes, go to slideshow.
Can't see, yeah,
Go
but
to
I can't see it because it's blocked by the, hang on.
Oh,
It's blocked by the black screen, the black, I don't know why I can do it. Okay, I'm gonna do it one more time. My apologies. Let me try this again this way. Okay, it's blocking me it's blocking the access to the tab that has share your screen in full. But I can start. If I could go here, no. Okay, let me just begin and then eventually I'll figure out how to make it in full. I can't see, oh, let me see if I can do it through this tab right here. No. Okay, I don't have access to the tab that says share your full presentation. And so that's why I'm having a hard time right now, but I can begin.
can you see the top part? I'm so sorry. Can you see everything at the top there?
That's the thing, you know what's on the top? You know how all of the Zoom stuff, like mute, stop video, participants, all that is on the top covering that. So I can't.
Oh, for the video?
Yeah, I can't see.
Oh, you can move that. You can move
How
it.
do I move that? Oh,
You
I
just
can.
drag it.
I just learned something new.
Good.
There you go. Awesome. Thank you.
No
Okay.
problem.
Okay. So let me see if we can go through here. Okay. There we go. Oh, wonderful. Okay. Now I am where I'm supposed to be. Thank you everyone for your patience. So my name is Rocio Zalba. I am the Ed Associate for World Languages in the South Carolina Department of Education. And my job is really to support our world language and immersion teachers across the state. And I do this through many different ways. One of those ways is through the Seal of Biliteracy. And so I am the main point of contact with the Seal of Biliteracy, and I'm the person who kind of oversees it at the state level. So with that, I want to give you guys access to the QR code. And that QR code right there gives you access to our our guidelines. So sometimes you're going to see in my presentation, you're going to see references to page numbers. Those page numbers are here on these guidelines. So you can have access to that. So this mini session that I'm leading today is mainly for educators or administrators who are new to the Seal of Biliteracy. So I'm just kind of sharing like the basis, the foundational pieces of the Seal of Biliteracy, the what and the why. If you already know all of this because your district is already implementing it and you're looking for the logistics piece, so things that you're interested in, the where and the how much, then that information, that's another presentation or another conversation. So just feel free to reach out to me. I will then put on the chat my email address, and I will gladly just meet up with you and talk about all the logistics for the Seal of Biliteracy. So the Seal of Biliteracy, hang on a second, it just skipped, is a nationally recognized credential that demonstrates a student's high proficiency in English and at least one other language. And it has also become a symbol of bilingualism and biliteracy for employers and universities across the nation. And when I say across the nation, I really mean across the nation. We have all 50 states and Washington, D.C. right now that have approved seals of biliteracy. So the Seal of Biliteracy can be recognized in any state. Now, nationally, there's a lot of endorsements. These are some of the key organizations that endorse the Seal of Biliteracy. For our state, here's a few of our supporting organizations and institutions. Not all of them are on the screen, but we just really have begun to have conversations with some of these organizations and institutions. Some of them are just now learning about it. So we are hoping that we'll receive more support as we move forward. So in regards to the Seal of Biliteracy, and this is the one question that I get asked, is the Seal of Biliteracy is a credential that students receive, is it recognized by universities? And so again, that's work that we just began about a year and a half ago, where we're talking to different universities about what the Seal of Biliteracy is, and ways that they can recognize it. And we already have 3 universities in place, so North Greenville University, Coastal Carolina, and Winthrop University, that are in full implementation. So that means that they recognize the Seal of Biliteracy as a placement tool and for credit. We are right now, there are other universities right now that are working on their policy, and other ones that we're having conversations with. But we do suspect that more and more universities will get on board. Now, what's key about the Seal of Biliteracy, particularly if you're in a district that is yet not recognizing it, is that it's important for us to know that the credential very much aligns with the profile of the South Carolina graduate. So when we're speaking about world-class knowledge, we know that our students need to have proficiency in language arts and also multiple languages. So we very much fit into this category. But we also know, especially when we're talking about our multilingual learners and the world-class skills that we want our South Carolina graduates to attain, is that multilingual learners or bilingual speakers or world language students really develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills as well as communication skills, which makes perfect sense, right? Because we know that and we know this through the research, and also for those of us who speak more than one language, is that we have that we're fortunate and have the privilege to be able to see the world through more than one lens, through more than one lens. So that means that when I see a table, I think table, but I also, because I speak Spanish, I think mesa. And just so our brains are so much more flexible, and so this critical thinking and problem solving skills really arise. And the same thing when we're talking about life and career characteristics. So anybody who speaks more than one language, it's already embedded in another culture. So our ML students, particularly, are students that already are coming in with global perspectives. Okay, so what are the requirements to earn a Seal of Biliteracy in our state? There are 2 main requirements. One of them is that the student needs to demonstrate at least an intermediate mid-level of proficiency in a language other than English, and then they have to demonstrate English proficiency. And how do they earn this? Well, it happens during their junior or senior year of high school, where they have to take a proficiency-based assessment in the language that they have chosen, so that language other than English. And then they have to demonstrate a minimum of a GPA in ELA or in their access scores. So if you're thinking, well, what if I have an ML who's just arrived and obviously his native language is Portuguese? Do they have to take this proficiency-based assessment? Yes, they do. They still have to take that assessment. So the assessments that they take are third-party assessments. So these are not assessments written by teachers, given by teachers, or by the school or districts. So there is a set of assessments that have been approved at the state level. These are the Stamp4S, Apple, Alira, and Alta. Now, Alira and Alta are those testing organizations that offer testing for languages that are less commonly taught or less commonly tested. There are 3 tiers for the South Carolina Seal of Biliteracy. This is what they are. So the first is the bronze tier. That means that when a student tests in their junior or senior year for that language other than English, if they receive an intermediate mid-level of proficiency and they have a 3.0 in their ELA GPA, or for our MLs, a 4.0 on their access, then they receive the bronze. They receive the silver if they achieve and attain an intermediate high level in their proficiency assessment for that language other than English. And then for English, it's a 3.0 ELA GPA, or for MLs, it's a 4.4 on their access. And the gold is they have achieved an advanced low level in their proficiency assessment. And for English, again, they can use their ELA GPA of a 3.0, but for MLs, they can go ahead and say, like, if they have a 4.4 or higher in their composite score on access, and a 4.0 or more on each language domain, if they have these two combined, then they get the gold. Now, when we're talking about this proficiency, intermediate, mid, intermediate, high, advanced, low, where do these come from? Well, this comes from the American Council on the Teaching of Foreign Languages. So you can see it on the left-hand side column right there, kind of where they fall. I don't expect you to read what's in front of it. It's really tiny like letters, but what you can see is if you look at the right-hand side column, you will see where our MLs, our heritage speakers, our informal learners, our non-academic learners would fall. Like, where would they are most likely to function when it comes to their proficiency? And if you see, you'll see that they are most likely to function in their heritage language or in their home language at an advanced mid-level. So that's really almost beyond gold. Now, how are these tiers determined, right? When it comes to how do we determine that they are intermediate mid or intermediate high or advanced low? So the way that is set up is that the student needs to reach a proficiency level, the same proficiency level, kind of in all 4 skills, because they're tested in the 4 domains, in speaking, reading, writing, and listening. So that means that if a student takes the 4 skills in that language other than English, and they have an intermediate mid in speaking, an advanced low in reading, and an intermediate high in writing and listening, the common proficiency among all 4 skills is intermediate mid. So that means that we can safely say that the student is proficient at the intermediate mid level in all 4 skills. So then that student receives the bronze tier. And I know this is a really hard one sometimes because we have these phenomenal students who get advanced low in their writing and in their reading, but then there's one that drops them lower. But it's just that we want to make sure that the student, when we send this out to universities or potential employers, is that we are being very accurate when we're saying what is the proficiency level in all 4 skills. So which languages can be tested? So the languages are not limited to the ones taught in our schools or districts, which is fantastic. We have more than 100 languages that can be tested through those different testing organizations that I mentioned to you before. So these are our stats from last year. We had 1,166 recipients with a 21% increase from the previous year. We had 27 languages represented. And we had and you can see at the bottom the districts, the charter schools, and the private schools. that participated. Now, this 27 languages represented is probably my second most, this is the second slide. This is the second most important slide in my presentation, I think, because I think when we go through these, we really realize the diversity in our state and the demographics in our states, So I think it's just so wonderful to see this. Here's also some statistics that would be very valuable to you. When we're looking about who are receiving, like which are the populations that are receiving the state's seals of biliteracy, you're gonna see that about 32.4% are students who may be who may have just exited the ML program or have a 4.0 in their access score, but have gone through the ML program. But you'll also see that between 50 to 60% of the students who receive the seal of biliteracy have another language other than English as their primary home language, or another language other than English was the first language that they acquired. So they may not have been part of the ML program, but they certainly are hearing a different language at home or have acquired, or their first language was a different language. When I say different language, I mean a language other than English. This is my favorite slide. So every year I ask all the districts that are participating and that have ceremonies at the end of the year to please just send me photographs, and I upload these in the South Carolina Fellowship of Language Teachers and Advocates. And the reason why I wanted to show you these, not only because I'm extremely proud of all the students, I am proud of these students and extremely thankful to every single person that's behind each one of these students. And that's giving the students these opportunities to test and to receive this credential. It really takes a village in each school to get the students to this point. The other thing that I wanted to mention is you'll notice that some photographs only have 2 students and some may have 5, and in some schools I have hundreds of students who are receiving the seal of biliteracy. So it's not a question of how many students do we have, how many students can take it. It is not a numbers game, it's really an opportunity. So if you're in a district where you have maybe 1 student who will be eligible and can test and receive this credential, then that's worth it. So why do our students apply? So you saw all these students, why are they applying for the seal of biliteracy? So the first piece, and the one that has taken a lot of momentum, especially now since we are having more and more universities that are recognizing it, is college recognition. Our students, even when we didn't have universities yet, our students wanted to submit this credential alongside their university applications, because they thought and they think, and very true, is that it boosts their application. The second one is the career boost. Our 21st century students are very well aware that having another language will give them an edge when it comes to their employment. What's also great is that when our students receive the seal of biliteracy or attain it, they receive the seal now in a digital format. It's done through parchment, and that means that they can upload it to their social media sites. So our students can now make themselves visible to any employers that are looking for bilingual candidates. The social emotional piece, and all of this comes from research that's been done on the seal of biliteracy, because the seal of biliteracy has been in the United States and in implementation for more than a decade now. In South Carolina, it just started in 2018, but it really began in California more than a decade ago. And so the research has found that our MLs particularly, and our heritage speakers, really benefit from the seal of biliteracy because there's a social emotional connection with it. So what does that mean? It means that, as you all well know, and I do too, I was a former ML myself, and I have a child who exited the ML program, is that when you're trying to assimilate to a new country and a new culture, you kind of put your language and your culture aside because you're just trying to assimilate. And all of a sudden, this seal is letting the student know that their language and their culture is an asset. And so not only is it recognized by their teachers in their school, but it's also recognized by their district, and not only by the district, but also by the state. So what they found is that there's a tremendous sense of pride for the students when they receive this credential. And a tremendous sense of gratitude from their families that their language and their culture has been recognized. So this is particularly, this becomes quite a moment I have learned when it comes to graduation ceremonies, and the students get to go up there and be recognized for their linguistic assets. And the last piece is the academics. So the Seal of Biliteracy has it has turned out to be a goal for a lot of our world language students. They want to get that seal, so they continue studying languages, and they continue to build on their linguistic strength. And then for our heritage speakers, it has also been something that has motivated them to maintain their language. So that's another piece that's important. Okay. So let me go quickly through, because I just have maybe 2 more minutes. So let me go quickly through 4 things that you want to keep in mind as a district if you are in plan of implementing the Seal of Biliteracy. Now, this research was done by Dr. Davin and Dr. Heineke. And this is what they have really 5 P's, but I'm just mentioning 4 with you today. So one of them is purpose. The other one is proficiency assessments. The other one is partners, and the last one is promotion. So when it comes to purpose, if you are thinking about bringing the Seal of Biliteracy to your district, it's really, really important. Let me just go quickly for you to know your why, because the why has to guide your overall efforts. It's also a way to secure that buy-in and resources for implementation. So if you're not sure yet of the why or how the why kind of fits into your school culture, you and I can talk, and we can work on that together. The second one is proficiency assessment. So I mentioned to you earlier on those guidelines. We need to make sure that all of our students have access to the Seal of Biliteracy, and that everybody has an opportunity to test. So you want to go, if you have a student who has a language that is less commonly taught or tested, just reach out to me and we'll try to find a test for that student. And we want to do that because of equity. So equity definitely needs to be the guiding light when planning the how, right? So all students need to have an opportunity to demonstrate their linguistic skills. We want to reach out to all of them. The number 3 is partners. So when it comes to partners is that we need to involve multiple stakeholders in implementation. So one of the things that the research has found is that when it comes to the Seal of Biliteracy, it usually gets birthed by someone in the district who's like become the champion and the cheerleader, but that person cannot sustain it on their own because it really needs a village to get our students from point A to point Z. So collaboration is key. It has to be an all hands on deck to extend the reach and the responsibility of the Seal of Biliteracy. And the last one is promotion. Increasing awareness to expand reach is really, really important. And so we want to make sure that our administrators, our counselors, and our teachers all comprehend the importance of the program, and that there's a consistent message that's being said to students through all these different stakeholders. And again, you just can always reach out to me because I have resources for all of you in all these areas, from the assessments to promotion to anything that you may need. I can provide something for you and support you through it. So this is the 4 things I mentioned. I'm quickly running through this. This is this is it. So I am going to stop. It is 4:56.
We do have a few questions, Rocio.
Okay, should I stop sharing or I'll keep my, okay.
Yeah, either way, it's up to you. So one question was, are you able to share that presentation with us?
Yes, absolutely. I can send that presentation to you.
Yeah, and I can
the
email
PowerPoint,
it.
and I will, yeah.
Yeah. Another question was, if a school district doesn't offer the Seal of Biliteracy, how can the students earn it? Or is there a way to do that?
So the Seal of Biliteracy can is a state initiative, so it can only be earned within a school district, or if a student is in homeschools, we also allow students that are being homeschooled to test as well. But if the district doesn't offer it, there is the Global Seal of Biliteracy. The Global Seal of Biliteracy is something that really it's a national initiative, and it really came from this very question, the fact that you have some districts or schools or states that, well, no longer states, but some schools or districts that don't offer it. So any student can take a Global Seal of Biliteracy. It's exactly the same assessment that they are used, and they can earn that credential. And again, if I can get it, I can see if I can put the Global Seal of Biliteracy link on the chat.
Okay. Someone did ask, but before you got to it, you did get to it in your presentation, but just reiterating the fact that this is supporting multilingualism for all. So they don't have to be an ML specifically with a heritage language other than English in order to get the Seal of Biliteracy.
All right.
It's amazing because it supports it for everyone.
It's for everyone.
And then someone asked, so what would be if a person is not taking an English, like they don't take access because they're not an ML student?
Yeah.
What are some examples of English proficiency assessments that you see other students take throughout
Right.
this?
So there's only two ways that a student can receive that English proficiency piece to this credential, and it's either they either have to have a 3.0 GPA in ELA,
Okay.
or it can be if they're not there for multilingual learners, it can be their access course, but that would be it. There's no English assessment for these students.
Yeah, that's great. That's a lot easier than I thought it would be. So you said another one said third-party tests. Are tests taken at school sites or off campus, and is it paid by the school district?
Great question. Yes. So the third-party tests are usually, again, you have a team of people in the district who decide, let's do this. And you usually have an ML and a world language teacher that partner up. And the students take the tests in the school. And the districts right now are the ones that are paying for these assessments. Now, depending on the number of students that a district may have, the cost can be between $20 to $25 per test. Now, these are tests for the $20 to $25 are for the most commonly tested languages. So that would be Spanish, French, German, Portuguese. But for the languages that are least commonly tested, so let's say Swahili or Urdu, those tests cost more.
Those are all the questions in the chat. Does anyone else have any questions about this? Those are really great questions, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Are there any other questions about this? Overall, it's just this is amazing that this is offered, and it's great.
Yeah. And again, I encourage any of you who are thinking about bringing it to your district and you're not sure how to do this, I just set up a meeting with me. We can talk through it, and I have all of those resources ready for you to take. And I can also participate in conversations or in presentations, whatever you may need.
I put your email back in the chat, just so people have it.
So if you want to know, actually, if you guys have a second, I'm going to share with you all of the districts that are participating, because I see that Melinda wants to know.
I love that.
Melinda wants, yeah, and you can also see how many, all the stats. I'll give you all the stats.
I think you told me it's so much easier for districts to participate than they think.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. So let me give you this data. This is important. So you can see all the districts participating, and also the number of seals that have been granted per district. So you can have that data. So you can see if you can find your district. Okay.
Ryan, she did say that you still can get the Seal of Biliteracy when you're homeschooled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me share this document, which is, I think is, again, it's so impressive. This is something that keeps growing. And we have up to 48 districts now that are participating this year so far. I know there's more coming because there's always a few more that come towards the end and sign up. So if your district is approved, Melinda, you should see it on that link. And if it's approved and you don't know about it, just reach out to me and I'll tell you who in that district is kind of leading it or in charge of it. So you can always connect to that person. I'm wondering if you guys were able to access that document, and hopefully
Yeah, I was able to pull it up.
Okay, wonderful. Perfect.
It's just amazing the wide variety of languages. I think one thing that people may prevent districts from doing this is they think it's only limited to the world languages that are taught within the schools, and that's
No.
not the case at all, which is
Not
really
the
great.
case at all. And it's also not limited to, again, any student with proficiency in any other language can test. The student doesn't have to, the student could be taking Spanish 1 and 2 in their junior and senior year, but maybe they're proficient in Italian, so they can take the Seal of Biliteracy in Italian. And we have quite a few students that also take the Seal of Biliteracy in different languages. So we have a student right now who sent me an email saying, I'm a Spanish, I did my immersion in Spanish, but I also took French. I'm gonna do both, and they got both. And so they can take as many tests and as many languages as they like.
I love that, Lindsay.
So
oh, sorry. Did you see
No,
Megan's
no.
question?
So how have you seen districts get the word out to students and families about this opportunity if the district has it? So Megan, I'm not sure, do you know if your district is already implementing it? Is it on the list? I don't know, but I can tell you that stars beside it. So that means that if it has stars beside it, it means that it's a relatively, so that's if it has stars beside it, what it means is that it has it's a relatively new district. Let me see. And so they have just started, and sometimes I put stars beside it. Yeah, so they are new participants in the 2022-2023 year. That's what the stars. So that means that they have just started. So that may be one of the reasons why you are also just now getting informed, because last year was our first year. But the way that we get the words out to students and families, there's plenty of ways to do this. I have collected and have also created a lot of different flyers and informational PowerPoints for parents and families. So this is for teachers to send out, school counselors to mention. So that's one way that it's getting out there. Yeah, just reach out to me and I can share with you all the different ways that it's been sent out. For example, next week, I'm going to be going to a district to speak to the parents about it. They've just invited me to see, can you come and just share it with them? And I'm like, yeah, happy to do it.
Any other questions? No? Sorry, there's a toddler in this house, so if you hear anything in the background, just where we're at in my life right now. Well, if there are no other questions, just thank you so much, Lindsay. Thank you so much, Rocio, for sharing all your information with us today. I am putting the link to the form for the feedback. If you all could just take a couple seconds and fill it out, that would be amazing. Even if you come back to it and fill in if you have any further questions later, because I will be sharing this with Lindsay and Rocio. So if anything pops up right after we hang up here and you're like, I wish I would have asked, like, please do. It's just so exciting. We have people at the State Department that are so willing to share and be open and have such good initiatives and collaborate. So we just really appreciate you guys. So
I have a quick question, and I'm sorry, can you hear me okay?
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
There's only a seal of biliteracy and a seal of triliteracy right now, correct?
The seal of biliteracy, thank you. Are you saying nationwide, or are you saying for our state, or?
Well, our state in particular.
So the way that it works is that the seal of, that's a great question. If you have a student that speaks 3, 4 languages. They can test in all 3 and 4 languages. And what it is that they get a seal of biliteracy certificate, right, or credential for each one of that second language that they have. So they will get a English, Spanish, English, French, English, Portuguese, English, Italian, and they get a credential for each one of them. In a way, it has to be that because the proficiency level for each language may be different, right? We can't say this is a seal for all the languages you speak because what the seal is doing is we are showing not only that they are bilingual, or in a case for a student that has 4 seals, they are obviously multilingual, but we're also indicating what is their proficiency level. And this is important to us, particularly now that we have universities that are coming in and are using this for placement and to give them credit. They want to know, well, what is the proficiency level of the student when it comes to their Spanish, their Italian, their French, etc.
One more question
Yeah,
that piggybacks off of that. Does that mean they do not have to take any proficiency tests for a foreign language when they get into college unless they want to go to, go learn another one?
So that's a great question. So yeah, you know that universities do offer, they actually required, I think most of them, I don't know if all of them, but they have an initial placement test to put the students in like in a world language class. So what these universities that are now recognizing it, they have, yes, the seal of biliteracy, that this credential becomes the placement tool. So they don't have to take that test. They're just placed into that class. But again, these are the universities who already have a policy in place and have already begun. More are coming. They each decide how they want to do this.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to say this, that they get back credit. So this idea, when Lindsay was talking about, the proficiency-based system, the universities are doing the same thing. The student is being placed in a class, but then they get back credit, which is great because that's money, really. That's what it is. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All righty. Well, thank you, ladies. We really appreciate it. And we thank you all for coming and listening more. We hope you share with all of your districts, especially if they're not participating in one of the programs that we discussed today. We will be we are recording this. I'll email that out to everyone. And so we can share more. So thank you, ladies. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.